Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode number 2 of E-Will and the Wubble with your center, our center, Elizabeth Williams. Elizabeth, last week we talked, you were getting ready for the season, and now, how you feeling after a week of 3 games in, 6 days, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's going to continue like this for a few more weeks.
I looked at next week's schedule, I'm like,
But
wow, 4 games. Oh, my God.
yeah, I think between us and Connecticut, we have the most basically like only 1 day rest games. But I mean, feeling good.
I looked at that, I was like, so I wrote down every game. I got every game on the schedule, and I was like, oh wow, they got a schedule there. They got a nice little schedule there. Before we get there, before we talk about all that, before we got there, I got a little surprise for you. You ready? You ready for this?
Oh gosh, yeah.
We have to do it right. We have to do it right, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to our girl, our person, our leader. 1,000 rebounds. Let's celebrate our lady Elizabeth.
Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you.
1,000 rebounds. I couldn't let the show go any longer without doing it correctly. Let's talk
I
about
appreciate
it.
that.
Let's talk about Elizabeth. Oh my gosh, 1,000 rebounds. How does it feel?
Kind of surreal. It's just like when I say like, oh yeah, I'm in my 6th season now. It's a little weird to say, but it's really cool. I mean, there have been so many great players and great rebounders in this league, so to even get to 1,000 is awesome.
I think about and I want people to understand that how big that number is. I look at your rebound this week. If I'm not mistaken, you had a double last night. We'll go through all the games throughout. We had 10, 4 the week before, and 7. That's 21 rebounds. That's a long way from 1,000, but over 6 years, you've gotten 1,000 rebounds. It's not it's a nice company to be in. I see you put a little quote out, say you're a long way from Sylvia, but you're in year 6. We got a little ways to go. So we're getting there. Did you, when you get to numbers like that, do you know that you're close to them, and you try? How do you work with that and try not to make that a part of what's your head? Because I mean, the minute you did, it was like you was at 999 at the end of the Las Vegas game, and your first rebound you got yesterday hit 1,000. What is in your mind with numbers or things like that are close?
Well, usually our PR person, they have all those crazy stats, like it's kind of their job. And there are like the women's basketball accounts on Twitter. There are people that like to track those stats. So someone has kind of been tweeting because I was close. So I was aware. But you try not to like overthink it or think about it, because there are just honestly, there are so many stats and numbers that people could pull up that you probably don't even know about. Like if the person didn't at me in the tweet, I wouldn't have known. So yeah, you just try to play each game the same way, but it's cool to reach a milestone like that for sure.
So what I would like to do with you is hopefully we can do this every week, is just put up the graphic of each game that you give, and you give us your thoughts on the game that you played, okay? The first game we played was the Wings. I'm trying a little technical stuff, so let me see how it works. The first game was this one when we played. The first game of the season was 105-95 versus Dallas. 105 points for you guys. Wow, that was amazing in itself. Let's talk about it. And how was that feeling? I mean, y'all felt like y'all couldn't miss anything. What was going on during that game?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit excitement from finally being back on the court playing. Right. A little bit of just being hot. Sometimes you have those games where people are hitting shots, and it was one of those games. And I think the other part was just playing really fast. So obviously when there's more possessions, there are more points. And so that combination of all those things, I think created for a really, one, a fun game to watch, but 2, a fun game to play.
Let's talk about your front court mate, Neek. She came out blazing that first game, 30 points, double boards. Talk about her energy and playing beside someone like that who's seems like every rebound between you and her, there's a chance we can get those offensive rebounds. Talk about playing with someone like Monique and what she's been able to do.
Yeah, she's a rebounding machine. She was like that in college. I think that was one thing people knew about her game. But adding the consistent offense was what I think a lot of people saw in that Dallas game. And she's been working so hard in the off season, even in quarantine. And I think people were able to see not just the athleticism, but a lot of like the skill that she's been working on. So I was really happy for her. That's my post buddy. So it was really cool to see.
You've been there 6 years, so you've seen her progression over 3 years. Since she started. Besides her shot getting there, what else did you see that's making her mature? Because you always, I remember when we first interviewed you, you was in your third year. You was like, yeah, I feel better this year. I can tell in this year I'm getting a little better. Something about that third year and getting over it, learning the WNBA. Talk to us about what you've seen in her growth since she first started to where she is now.
Yeah, I think initially even when she first came in, just from people knowing her college game, people only knew about her athleticism and her rebounding. And I think now that she understands the game more, understands, what our team is looking for offensively, understands like reading the game a little bit more. She's been able to be a bit more patient on the block, make really good decisions. And so, combining that athleticism with that understanding of the game, I think that's what has made her really successful this season so far.
So I want to ask you about this playing it in the Wubble, going from, it's not a long distance to ride home anymore. It's like everything's around you now once you play the game. How different is it when you played your first game and you need that ice? Everything seems to be around you. Talk about the difference in going home or going to a training room to now being in the Wubble after a game and what y'all get to do and some of the things y'all do that's probably a little bit quicker.
Yeah, very different. I'm not sure how many people watched the LA game the other day, but Holly Rowe was reporting and said how Raquana Williams actually got locked in the bathroom at the arena. So where we play, it's like it's off-site, and it's kind of like a giant warehouse almost. So the courts are built in, locker rooms are built in. It's not necessarily an arena. So the bathrooms are kind of like the super fancy trailers, like think about like a movie trailer or something. So when you lock the door, just like imagine like locking a trailer door. So what happened was she got literally locked in for 40 minutes. Like they had to get welders and like had to get people to pry her out of the bathroom door. Like that would never happen in a normal bathroom stall. So I feel like things like that are just like Wubble only. And like we can't shower there. We can't, so like you play, you change, and then you come home to shower. So like they're just different game time, game setup things that are just different that you have to figure out.
Wow, that is different. Yeah, you got locked in their own bathroom. That's interesting. So after game one, after y'all played that 105-point game, what was the feeling after for the team? Because so far this season you guys have played shorthanded. You're building going through, and more players are coming. But to play the way y'all did, to see the new players come in the way they did. We'll talk about Kennedy a little later, but just to see what happened and to have to come together for a first game like that, what were your overall impressions after game one?
I think everyone was feeling good. I mean, he scored 105 points. It's the first game. Obviously, we're a completely new team, but just seeing that you're capable of that was, I think, a great start for us mentally. But of course, you play every 2 days, so you don't want to get too high, you don't want to get too low. And so I think it was definitely an adjustment going into the Vegas game, and also because Vegas is such a different team than Dallas. We couldn't play exactly exactly that type of game against them, and I think that's a little bit of why we were struggling and just making that adjustment on the fly. But I do think it was important to start off like that, for sure.
I'll only put this up quickly so we won't have to see it long. But the next game you've already talked about a little bit is this game against Vegas, July 29th. As y'all can see, it's 2 days freaking later, but that's how the Wubble is. A nice photo of you, by the way, going to the ring.
Thank you.
So that was a good one. You were the player of the game at the time. But as you were saying, it's 2 days later, and now challenges make fight, as they say. You have to change the style of play. You got to deal with Asia and now Angels coming and all that. Talk to us about going into that game and what was different than game one for you guys.
Well, I think the Aces were obviously really highly motivated for Angel, being that she played in Atlanta, being that I'm sure she felt some type of way that she didn't re-sign with them.
There?
I mean, a little weird.
Over there?
A little weird, but at the end of the day, like that's kind of how this league is, with free agents. Like if you were to look at our team, right, like there are players from all over, It's just like it's weird at first, and then you start playing, and you're like, all right, it is what it is. So
it is moving.
Yeah.
So you played that game. You play, playing against a center like Asia. You've seen her grow throughout the years as well. What is it about her game that you've seen grown? She's, in the league. We've seen her with this year. She doesn't have beige by her, but what is it about her game that's you've seen as a competitor that you've seen against her and what you, I ain't gonna say like about it, but what do you see her game growing from when you first played against her?
Yeah, I would say the biggest growth is her being less predictable. I think her rookie year, everybody knew what she's going to do. She's going to face up and drive left. And I think now you're seeing a bunch of moves, not as much predictability in those moves. She's always done a good job of rebounding her own shots. And I think that's one thing that makes her really tough to guard, because if you disengage for a second and you do force her into a bad shot, she does a good job of getting her own rebounds. So I would just say expanding and not being as predictable has been really good for her.
So we get through that game. It was what it was. It is what it is. You're 1-1 at this point. What's the mindset after a game like this? What is coach telling you guys to get focused for that game against the Liberty, which is, of course, 2 days later? What's the mindset to get the move on and get ready for that game?
Yeah, it's again not being too high or too low. Like you said, it's like, all right, you got 2 days. So you really don't have a lot of time to watch the previous film. And sometimes in games like that, you don't want to like overanalyze and get so stressed out about it, because at the end of the day, you got to start scouting for the next team that you're going to play. So for us, it was just, all right, like shake it off. You got another game to play, another chance for redeeming yourself and fixing the things that are like easy to fix, like playing with more pace or rebounding better. And so that was kind of the focus in the New York game.
So we go to that game, and we'll put that graphic up, and the person on this graphic, Laney. You gotta teach me how to say her name correctly, the first name correctly.
Benijah.
You talking about taking Denijah. You talking about taking advantage of your situation. Oh my God. Her first 3 games, she put up 30 this game, and in this win for you guys, 84-78 over the Liberty. Talk to us about Denijah. I'm sorry. And what she's meant so far. She came in as a defensive person, and now she's putting up points. I mean, 30 points this game. What has that meant for you guys? Because she's got a nice size, she got a nice shot, she got a lot of nice things going for her. How has that helped the team so far in this 2-1 record?
I mean, she's the type of player. So I've actually known her for years. From playing USA basketball when we were like 16 years old. So it was actually really exciting to have her on the same team. Like she was really successful at Rutgers, kind of bounced around in the league, but I think she had a really good overseas season where she wanted to make sure she was scoring really consistently and making a name for herself as an offensive threat. And so I think Coach Nikki kind of saw the potential after some really solid overseas seasons, and obviously being a defensive player is great and sometimes rare. And I think for her, it's again, proving that she should be in this league, that she should be on this team, and even from individuals in training camp, she was proving herself, and so it's really cool to see her live and doing that against other teams, so people can really see how good she is.
Yeah, I enjoyed her post game talking about she just needed a chance when Indiana let her go, and Coach Nikki saw something and she came and she's been, I think, a very welcome addition to the team. Glad to see she's playing. Like I said, she put up 30. She's averaging, I think, over 20 points a game now. It's really good to see how she's progressed since she came with the team. And let's talk about that overall. Now that y'all are getting players back, Courtney came back. She's back. So Kalani will be back. These players are coming back to help you guys out. How is that going to make y'all better going forward? I mean, you got a game Sunday, like, again, every 2 days, it looks like. Let me make sure. Yeah, y'all play Indiana, so it's like that. But how now, since y'all have been able to play so far and you got these players coming back, what is that going to mean for you guys going forward and welcoming them into the fray of what y'all been able to do so far?
Yeah, it's huge. I think, obviously, when Coach Nikki was creating this roster, we never expected the season to kind of start out like this. And I think it's actually been great because it's created that opportunity for Benijah to come in and step up and prove that she can score consistently. Now we have the chance to start Benijah, bring Courtney off the bench. Like, there's a lot more flexibility in what Coach can do. And obviously adding Glory and Kalani as well just gives us some depth because, like you said, you're playing every 2 days, so having a bench is going to be really, really critical moving forward in this season. So I'm just excited, one, to have everybody back, and two, to just see where we're going to go.
Benijah, I apologize. I will get your name right as the season goes. It takes me a little long, a little older. It takes me a little longer to get the thing.
You could just call her B.
We'll call it B. That's what we go with.
Yeah.
B. I go with B. I want to talk about your game. I see more aggression this year. Obviously, you'll be aggressive on boards. My boy Maceo just said Miss Block Party. We already call you that, but I've seen you be more aggressive on the go. You go into the hole. You calling for the ball down there in the paint a little bit more. Maybe you've always been that way, but it looks like this year where it looks like you're being counted as that leader for the squad. You're taking on that role pretty well so far these first 3 games. Is that your mindset going in, that you're going to try to get the ball, get to the hole, help underneath, and cause that? Because it will open up the wings with you taking up, you and Monique doing what you guys do. So is that more of a thought process for you this year?
Yeah, I think good things happen when I play more aggressively, and it's like you said, we have a little more paint in the lanes, or space in the paint too. Having more shooters that have been shooting well consistently. I mean, 105 points, like, people can shoot. So I think that also helps in just the lane not feeling super clogged and feeling like I can have space to maneuver in there. So I think good things happen when I'm aggressive, and I'm just trying to embrace this leadership role on our team this year.
I might be crazy, but I've seen the free throws. They're going in too a little bit more. What are your thoughts about that? Sometimes I can see your face. Sometimes I'm looking at it, but you get into that line and that stripe a little bit more, and you seem to be cashing in on those numbers too.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I worked on a lot. Obviously, once I had access to a gym, I could work on it more. I try to work on it a lot more overseas because that's when I had the time. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to get fouled a lot, so those are free points that I'm not trying to leave on the board. So yeah, I'm just trying to continue to be consistent with that.
Continue with this. We're talking about another player that seems to be hiding a lot about people's minds as our rookie, Kennedy. What have you seen from her these first 3 games? I mean, she's very poised. She's got some growing pains as well, but she's taken on the role, the mantra of being a starting point guard in this league very well, in my opinion, to start off the first 3 games. What have been your impressions so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot to be in as a rookie. Point guard's the toughest position to play on the floor. So, but she can score. Everybody knows it. Everyone can see it, and it's cool to see it on this level as well. I mean, she's still learning. She's still got a lot of learning to do and growing to do, and just understanding reads more and making different decisions. But I think so far she's been really impressive, and I'm excited to keep playing with her.
Yeah, I think we're all excited to see everything come together. So, what's been interesting from the Wubble this week, besides playing 3 games in all these days? What's else been interesting inside the Wubble down there?
I mean, now with all these games, I feel like everybody's everywhere. Like they're just constantly buses going in and out, taking teams to games because everybody's playing. I still think the most interesting story is the Raquana story at the arena.
Oh my God. That's awesome. That's craziness.
Yeah. But now with more games going on, I think it's more like you're seeing more team pool workouts, less people in the weight room, less people like shooting because they're just not all that time. Like now the time's being spent at the game. So yeah, it's a little different.
Okay. The Wubble is different now. First, everybody was chilling, but now. So let me ask this: from a competitive standpoint, since the games have been started, do you be like, "Yeah, ain't no more talking now. It's different. Go on about your business. We got stuff to do." Since the games have kicked off.
I mean, people still talk their talk. Like players that want to talk, they're gonna talk. Like that's just how it is. So like I know Lay and I were going back and forth even before the game. So I think that's still there. And once you're on the floor, like people are extra competitive. So yeah.
I think it's been great basketball. I think y'all have gone at it. I've enjoyed it. I watched all of them. And it's funny. Fox Sports South down here in Atlanta was replaying the game, and I'm like, oh, okay, catch some more of it. So let me just start with something a little different that I still have appreciated since you've been on quarantine. Your series with interviewing doctors. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tell me what made you want to do that, and why. You had another interview this week, and what's been the reason behind you interviewing doctors? What's up with that? Why? I mean, doctors are fascinating in themselves, but why did you decide to do that as something for you to do during this time?
I mean, nobody interviews doctors. People interview athletes. People interview, like nobody talks to doctors. So it was kind of like that for them, like what a unique platform to be on an athlete's page, to have people that have genuine questions that aren't just in their world. It's kind of like, when you're in the sports world, it feels like most of the people you talk about sports. So it's kind of like flipping things a little bit and allowing my followers or anyone who's interested to just ask these questions that you wouldn't necessarily get to ask on the daily, to different types of doctors. The last person I had was a registered dietitian nutritionist, so talking about everything from health disparities in how kidney function is calculated, to why athletes are using more CBD, to just general nutrition, nutrigenetics, like random stuff that they probably wouldn't get to talk to a lot of people about who aren't in their field. So I think it's been really cool, and I'm glad that I've been able to keep it going even while I'm in the bubble.
Yeah, it's been awesome, man. I saw you do that. I was excited to see you do another episode. Like, oh, you're keeping it going. Awesome. So let's keep it going. Yeah. I think it's very interesting. They can check it out on your IG page. Is it weekly, or do you just have to, when you can get it? Because I know you got a lot going on now.
Yeah, the goal is to be weekly. I have another one actually coming up I wrote it down, on the 5th, because it also depends on these doctor schedules. So that's a lot of schedule combining. That's been fun. But yeah, so I'll have another one on the 5th in the evening, I think 7 Eastern. And yeah, so hopefully they'll continue weekly, even with all these games. And people can always submit their questions and just watch on Instagram.
That's awesome. Awesome. Let's talk about it. I know we're doing one game at a time, but let's just run over the schedule for everybody for next week. Next week, you play Indiana on Sunday, Phoenix on Tuesday. Then you play Seattle on Thursday, and finish the week on the 8th with Dallas. Wow, that is a lot of games in a few days. But what's the mindset going into a week like this? You play Indiana tomorrow at 4 to start it off. I know it's a game at a time and all that, but what is the mindset when you got a schedule like that?
Well, I think the game's at 3:30 now. I think TV moved it up for us.
Okay.
Yeah, but right. Honestly, I didn't even know who we were playing the rest of the week because it's too much to think about. We have to literally go one game at a time, or else it's really overwhelming. Like, I feel bad for the coaches because they got to do the scouting, and it's like they have to prepare so quickly. Like, that turnaround is insane, you know?
Right.
But yeah, we usually, you just kind of have to take everything one game at a time. So I think for the Indiana game, both the Mitchells, Tiffany and Kelsey, are really explosive. Kelsey more with the 3, but Tiff can really, really get to the basket. She gets fouled a lot. So it's going to be important for us to stay in our stances and play solid defense. And obviously with McCown in the paint as well, she can do a lot. I mean, when you're that size, we got to keep her out of the paint as much as possible and make shots really difficult. So it'll be another kind of unique game as far as like tempo and matchups are concerned.
And I don't want to jump the gun, but I think we could be as close to full squad as we've ever been this week tomorrow. So we should hopefully see, the whole squad together. Probably some limited minutes for some, but Glory and all those and Courtney and all those should be back. So we should see, which will help in the schedule, like you said, coming up this week. So let's take it one game at a time. We'll start with Indiana. So before we go, and I thank you again for taking the time for this E-Wheel and the Wubble, and we have to figure out next week because you might be exhausted next week. I had to check with you to see when you want to do the next one. But
yeah,
what do you like to be finished with for this episode and tell everybody what you want to leave with today?
Oh gosh. I would just say to continue watching games. I think obviously there's a lot of excitement when it's opening weekend, but I would just encourage people because there are going to be a lot of games on. We play every other day. So keep watching, keep supporting the league. It makes a big difference for us. So yeah. Yes.
Let them dream. And again, guys, make sure you understand we are still celebrating. We're celebrating our girl 1,000 rebounds. 1,000 rebounds. Congratulations again. I'm so proud of you. Keep up the good work. We know this is still a long ways. We still got a long ways in your career, but I thought we just had to make sure we get that. So congratulations. And thanks again for doing what you're doing. Let's win. Let's have another winning week this week.
Let's do it. Thank you.
For Elizabeth Williams, it's your boy E Glaze, E-Wheel and the Wubble, episode number 2. We'll let you know when the next one. I got to check on her, make sure she's all right because, like I said, there's a lot of games. But we'll let you know, and we got to keep it going. E-Wheel and the Wubble. Thank you, and see y'all next week.